I wanted to start off this video by talking about computer programming. Now, bear with, this is not me talking about my special interests. In fact, to a certain extent, my knowledge in computer programming is pretty close to zero. But what I do know about computer programming is that, in a sense, it's a load of instructions. There are what's called if scenarios. You know, if if this happens, this is how the machine is going to respond. If this happens, but this also happens, this is how the machine is going to respond. A load of instructions that make a computer seem like it can do everything and maybe seem like a personal friend. You look at your tablets and you look at your laptops, and the things that you look at, whether that be a certain app, a certain browser, and it appears almost like a personal assistant and a personal, almost friend, companion. But actually, you delve right into it. It's a lot of mathematical, logical conclusions. It's robotic, but it makes it seem like it isn't. Now, why am I talking about computer programming? Well, because of the fact that, in a sense, that's exactly how an autistic person might think. That's how I think. If anyone's seen these videos that we've done, it looks like I'm doing this completely spontaneous, completely from my heart. I've made it up on the spot, no control over what's going on. The fact is, though, it's a script. Very much like a computer script, it's still a script in my mind. That is how I tackle IRL life. I have it all the time. From small talk when it comes to certain sports. People have seen the Ferrari logo. People might know me for liking sports. The small talk that goes along with that, I've scripted in my mind. I know what the scores are and what the results are, and I will reflect on those results based on, in a sense, what are the comments from my family, my co-workers likely to be based on that. How am I going to respond to it? How would they respond to it? And it's a lot of back and forth and scripting in my mind, right? And you can just think about the variety of conversations that are going on. The actual conversation that happens might only be like 4 questions and answers long. They say something, I say something. They say something, I say something. So it might be really short. But for me to prepare for that, which I do every evening, I've created this huge dialogue of, if they say this, then this is what I'm going to say. If they say this is what I'm going to say. Loads of them, right? Now, if this was about one subject, if this was literally just about the football or a certain sport, then that would be fine, wouldn't it? Except it's not just that for me. It's also the standard conversations I'd have with family. Scripting things in my mind, what they might say to me, what I will say, respond back, how they might ask questions based on that, how I'd respond to that. See where I'm going? Work. How my boss might speak to me, how I'll respond to that. How my team might respond to me, how I respond to that. You see how big this can end up being. Now, fortunately for me, most days I have the mental capacity to do that. But now you can start to see where a mental shutdown might happen, or a mental overload might happen. Because that is a lot of data. Let's talk computer speak. That is a lot of data. And a computer, if you gave it too much information, would crash, shut down, overheat, overload. Some have even known to have minor explosions. And it's no different when it comes to an autistic person. When you see a burnout or a sensory overload or anything like that, that is basically a lot of data being processed, and it's too much. Now that seems like there's no hope or anything like that. Well, it's a thing of what can you do? Well, firstly, I'm going to address those of you that are neurodivergent. If you resonate with these feelings, you are doing incredible. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and for those of them that don't know that there are people that do know and do appreciate. That's the first thing, because sometimes we just don't have the energy for it. But how about to you non-neurodivergent folk, or maybe you just don't resonate with this? Well, if you see someone having a meltdown, having a shutdown, it's very easy to pass it off as something very childish, whether that be giving you the silent treatment or passing it off as having a temper tantrum. Those are very infantile covers, aren't they, in comments? But sadly, that's what some people will view it as, a temper tantrum silent treatment. Particularly if you know that they're neurodivergent, the very last thing they want to do is draw attention to themselves when they're going through this. The very last thing that they want to do is make other people feel awkward around them. The very last thing that they want to do is upset people. The very last thing that they want to do is make it seem like it's everybody else's problem and not theirs. So if you see that, if you see the shutdown or the overload, the seeming tantrums of an autistic or an ADHD individual, have a think about the work that goes on behind the scenes. How much effort that they might have gone to make sure that they didn't do that. Also, imagine if you resolved in your mind to do a certain thing or to not do a certain thing, and you did the opposite. How would you feel? Pretty rubbish. How would you feel if someone berated you for doing that? Even worse. Perhaps you might snap. Perhaps you might break down. Hold on to that. An autistic person pretty regularly, in fact daily, resolves to make it not obvious to other people that they're different and that they're making it, that it's life's a challenge for them. When they go through the burnout or anything like that from taking on too much data, that's exactly what they know they are doing. Making it clear to other people that life is difficult for them. They will feel like they're failing. Very much like you might. Do you want to add to that? Do you want to add to that failure and make them go defensive? Make them feel even more isolated? Make them feel like they can't do things? Support is a thing that we can give each other to a certain extent. There are limits, of course. But the compassion, the kindness, the understanding, the wanting to listen. Trust me, it's valued more than anything else. We appreciate those people that give us the extra time, that give us the extra space, that give us the extra love. So, if someone says something out of turn that's neurodivergent, if someone reacts that's not in their character as someone who's neurodivergent, have a think about the work, the data that they're having to go through that might mean that they've got to that point. Show the kindness, show the love, and there might not be a happily ever after, but there'll be a united ever after.